Have you ever wondered how a military campaign could impact the course of civilization? Let's dive into the intriguing story of one such expedition, led by the audacious French leader, Napoleon Bonaparte, 225 years ago. This adventure, which descended upon the shores of Egypt, was not merely an act of conquest but a transformative experience that possibly reshaped the course of history. In the late 18th century, Europe was a chessboard of power politics, and Napoleon, a strategic player. Egypt at this time was a critical pawn, straddling the trade routes between Europe and the East. Recognizing this, Napoleon set his sights on the land of the pharaohs. But why Egypt, you might wonder? Well, Napoleon had a vision. He wanted to establish an enlightened French colony that would serve as a beacon of civilization in the region. This was not merely a dream of territorial expansion, but one of cultural revolution. Napoleon envisioned a cooperative society where the French and Egyptians could exchange ideas and enrich each other's cultures. But let's not forget, Napoleon was a military man. The strategic location of Egypt gave him a potential foothold to threaten British India, a prized jewel in the crown of France's arch-rival, Britain. Napoleon's ambitious plans were matched by his audacity. He assembled a formidable force of more than 35,000 men, not just soldiers but scholars, scientists, and artists. These men were tasked with studying Egypt and its ancient civilization, a testament to Napoleon's vision of cultural exchange. However, this was not a one-way street. Napoleon also sought to introduce the ideals of the French Revolution to Egypt. He believed that these ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity could transform Egyptian society. As we'll see, Napoleon's Egyptian expedition was more than just a military campaign, it was a catalyst for change. So get ready to embark on this journey into the past, as we unfold the tale of Napoleon in Cairo, an expedition that left an indelible mark on the sands of time. Now, imagine a fleet of 400 ships setting sail from France carrying not just soldiers but scientists, engineers, and artists. This was the grand spectacle of Napoleon Bonaparte's expedition to Egypt in the closing years of the 18th century. A journey that wasn't just about military conquest but a voyage of discovery, of knowledge, and of cultural exchange. This was no typical military expedition. Among the tens of thousands of men were some of France's brightest minds. They were tasked with studying Egypt's rich history and culture, its flora and fauna, its geography and its people. Their mission was to bring back to France a wealth of knowledge about this ancient land, a mission that was as much about enlightenment as it was about empire. But the journey was not without its challenges. The fleet had to navigate the treacherous waters of the Mediterranean, risking storms and the ever-present threat of the British Navy. Food and water were scarce and the heat of the Egyptian sun was relentless. Yet, despite these hardships, the men pressed on, driven by the promise of discovery and the allure of the unknown. In the ship's holds, alongside the cannons and muskets, were crates filled with scientific instruments, sketchbooks, and quills. These tools were the weapons of the scientists and artists. Their battlefield was not the sandy dunes of Egypt, but the realm of knowledge and understanding. They were there to map uncharted territories, to document unknown species, and to decipher ancient scripts. Among the soldiers, a sense of anticipation and excitement was palpable. They were not just conquerors but explorers stepping into a land that, for many of them, existed only in stories and legends. They were about to witness firsthand the grandeur of the pyramids, the mystery of the Sphinx, and the bustling life of Cairo. The journey was just the beginning of what would become a transformative period in Egyptian history. Napoleon's expedition to Egypt was not just a military campaign, it was a journey of discovery, a voyage of knowledge, a mission of enlightenment. A journey that would change Egypt and France forever. After a treacherous journey, Napoleon's fleet finally arrived in Egypt. But what awaited them? There, on the sandy shores, they encountered the formidable Mamluks, the ruling military caste of Egypt, known for their equestrian skills and bravery. The French, armed with modern artillery and tactics, were a stark contrast to the traditional Mamluk cavalry. The stage was set for a clash of cultures, strategies, and weaponry. At the Battle of the Pyramids, a mere 15 days after their arrival, the French forces faced off against the Mamluks. Napoleon's strategic brilliance shone brightly here. He utilized the French army's superior firepower and adopted the square formation, a tactic that maximized their artillery's effectiveness while minimizing their vulnerability to cavalry charges. The result was a crushing defeat for the Mamluks. Following this victory, Napoleon moved swiftly to establish French rule. He declared himself a liberator, freeing the Egyptians from the oppressive Mamluk rule. He implemented a series of reforms aimed at modernizing Egypt. These included the introduction of a uniform legal code, the establishment of a modern administrative system, and the promotion of scientific research. But Napoleon's rule was not entirely smooth sailing. He faced resistance from various quarters, including religious leaders and disgruntled Mamluks. However, his strategic acumen and iron will helped him quell these revolts and consolidate French rule. But what's fascinating about Napoleon's conquest is not just the military victories. It was also a period of significant cultural exchange. The French brought with them a wealth of knowledge in the arts, sciences, and administration. They were eager to learn from the rich history and culture of Egypt. This mutual exchange of ideas and practices marked the beginning of a new era in Egypt's history. In the end, Napoleon's Egyptian campaign was not just about territorial expansion. It was an audacious experiment in cultural fusion and modernization. It was a bold attempt to bridge the gap between the East and the West. It was, as some would say, the dawn of a new age. This was not just a conquest, it was the beginning of a cultural exchange that would leave a lasting impact. A military campaign that turned into a cultural exchange. How did that happen? Well, Napoleon didn't just bring soldiers to Egypt. He also brought along 167 savants, scholars, scientists, and engineers, with a mission to study and document Egypt's rich past and present. This group of intellectuals was known as the Commission des Sciences et des Arts, and they were tasked with the monumental job of understanding and recording the knowledge and culture of Egypt. Their efforts led to the establishment of the Institute of Egypt, a learned society that was instrumental in promoting scientific research and cultural studies in Egypt. This institute, based in Cairo, became a beacon of enlightenment, attracting intellectuals from around the world and serving as a bridge between the Eastern and Western worlds. The savants made several notable discoveries during their stay in Egypt, the most famous of which was the Rosetta Stone. This slab of granodiorite, discovered near the town of Rashid, or Rosetta, in the Nile Delta, provided the key to deciphering Egyptian hieroglyphs, which had been a mystery for over 1,000 years. The Rosetta Stone was a trilingual inscription, written in ancient Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphs. By comparing these scripts, French scholar Jean-François Champollion was eventually able to crack the code of the hieroglyphs, opening up the ancient Egyptian world to modern scholarship. The French rule also saw a blending of cultures. French influence could be seen in Egyptian architecture, art, and language, while Egyptian customs, ideas, and knowledge greatly influenced the French. This cultural exchange played a significant role in shaping the modern identity of Egypt. Indeed, Napoleon's campaign was not just about military conquest. It was about knowledge, discovery, and cultural exchange. It was about building bridges between civilizations and fostering an understanding that transcended borders and languages. The cultural impact of Napoleon's expedition was profound and far-reaching. Indeed, the cultural impact of Napoleon's expedition was profound and far-reaching. So, what was the lasting impact of Napoleon's expedition to Egypt? A question that has fueled debates among historians for over 2 centuries. Though the French occupation was relatively brief, spanning just 3 years from 1798 to 1801, its influence was anything but fleeting. The expedition, while primarily a military campaign, was also a comprehensive scientific mission. Napoleon's entourage included not just soldiers, but a host of scholars, scientists, and artists. They meticulously studied, documented, and replicated the rich tapestry of Egyptian life, culture, and history. This treasure trove of knowledge, later published as the Description of Egypt, sparked a wave of Egyptomania in Europe, forever changing the Western perception of Egypt. But what about Egypt itself? Did Napoleon's expedition truly drag it out of the Dark Ages and into the light, as some suggest? Well, the truth, as is often the case, is nuanced. While the French did introduce modern administrative systems, educational reforms, and infrastructure projects, their rule was also marked by heavy taxation, economic exploitation, and brutal military suppression. In the long run, however, the expedition served as a catalyst for change. It exposed the weakness of the Mamluk rule, paving the way for Muhammad Ali's reforms that would truly modernize Egypt. Moreover, it introduced the Egyptians to the ideas of the French Revolution: liberty, equality, fraternity, ideas that would inspire future generations to fight for their rights and freedom. So, was the expedition a boon or a bane for Egypt? It's not easy to say. Like a coin, it had 2 sides, one of exploitation and suffering, the other of discovery and enlightenment. But one thing is clear: It left an indelible mark on Egypt's history, shaping its journey into the modern era. In the end, Napoleon's expedition was a sweeping saga of conquest, discovery, and transformation that changed Egypt forever.